Hello and welcome to this presentation on assessment and monitoring. This presentation is geared up for students at the PE GCSE course, and it's to do with assessment and monitoring of a fitness program. So what's the point of assessment and monitoring? That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at why you would assess and monitor and how you would assess and monitor. And really, these both answer the question, where am I in terms of your fitness or your health? Assessment would be more to do with the start and end of a program. Monitoring would be during the course of a program. So you might have an assessment at the start, then 6 or 8 weeks training and an assessment at the end. And during the course of that 6 to 8 weeks you might have some monitoring. So why would we assess? Well, it's easier to know how to get somewhere if you know where you are. That's what it says there. So that's basically saying, how do you know you're getting any better if you don't know how good you are already? Another reason why we might assess is that we're able to stay motivated if we can see we're progressing. So again, how do we know we're getting any better? How do we build up the motivation to go out on the rainy day running if we can't see that we're progressing? Very hard to keep going if you don't think you're getting any better. On the flip side of that, if we aren't getting any better and we've assessed that and we somehow know our training program's not working, we can change it. We can change the training program to make it more effective. So 5 B's for how to assess. So we know why we're going to assess now, or what the point in assessment is. And 5 B's for different sorts of assessment. And these can all be used for monitoring as well. The first one is body. Listening to your own body. Do you feel better? Are you glowing? Or can you get up the stairs without having to take a 5-minute rest halfway up? What's our body telling us about how we feel? That can be an indication of our level of fitness. Next one's bounce back. So how fast do we recover from exercise? Do we have a kind of plastic response? One day I go for a run, for the next 4 days I lie on the couch moaning in agony? Or do I bounce back like elastic and I'm ready to go the next day? The faster you recover from a training session, the fitter you were to deal with it. The easier it was for you to deal with. So our recovery rate can be used as a form of assessment. Next thing is a baseline. An example would be a resting pulse rate. If I sit here and I take my pulse now and it's 60 beats a minute, and then I do a training program for 4 weeks, cardiovascular work, and I test my resting pulse rate again and it's gone down, chances are that's because of the training. So I could say my training's having an effect. My cardiovascular system's better, aerobic energy production's more productive, muscular endurance is better, and that's causing this drop in my resting pulse rate. So that would be a baseline. I know what my resting pulse rate was at the start of the program, and I can monitor it during the course of the program and at the end to see has it been effective. Next B, do you get any better? And I've put here Citius, Altius, Fortius, which means swifter, higher, stronger. Can you run faster, jump higher, lift things that you weren't able previously to lift? Have you suddenly taken on the air of a superhero? So are you getting better at things? If you are, then that can be used to assess your fitness. You can use those aspects of whatever you're looking at to say that your fitness program's working and that you're getting fitter. And the last one's bendier. So are you more flexible? So you can see these different sorts of assessment fit different components of fitness better, some better than others. So the bendier one, the component of fitness that it's most in line with, obviously, is flexibility. So part of the trick in making assessments and carrying them out is finding ones that fit the component of fitness that you're working on. Now, what about when you actually come to do the test? How do we ensure fair testing? Well, basically, keep it all the same as what I've said. So we could expand on that quite a bit, but if you look at the fellow on the right, if the first time he did his press-up test, he was just by himself, and then after his 8-week training program, we give him the same press-up test, except we stuck a load of weights on his back, that's going to affect the result, so it wouldn't be fair. First time he did 30 press-ups in a minute, second time he did 30 as well, so you could say he hasn't improved, but the test wasn't carried out fairly. So as a basic rule, you want everything to be the same as you conduct your tests. So what you're going to do for me now is try and make up some tests. And the things I want you to tell me is what component of fitness is being tested. So you may need to look back at the component of fitness presentations. I want you to describe the protocol for the test, including equipment. So the protocol would be what the person has to do. So if it's a sit-up test, is someone holding their legs, holding their feet? Can they put them under a bench? Do they start lying down on their back? Do they have to have their hands by their heads, hands on their hips, hands above your head? All that detail about how they actually carry out the test, including what equipment you need. Do you need a stopwatch, a meter ruler, a partner to count? And I want to know how you will record the results. So there's 3 things to tell me for each of these things that I'm going to explain to you next. What component of fitness is being tested, how you carry out the test, including what equipment you'll need, and how you'll record the results. So, a high jumper comes to you as a fitness expert, fitness guru, and they want to be able to jump higher, surprisingly. So, what component of fitness are you going to test? What component of fitness is most to do with that gaining more height? How are you going to assess it? What test can you make up? What equipment will you need, and how exactly will they carry out the test? So a gymnast comes to you as well, and they want to have better splits. What component of fitness is most to do with that, and how will you assess a fitness program, and how you assess the level of their splits currently and after the training program or during it. A racing driver wants to have good grip for the whole of the race. Let's say it's a car racing driver and the race is an hour long, and they want to be able to basically hold on to that steering wheel as tight as they need to when they're going through all those bends. Next person's a triathlete, and they want a better sprint on their bike at the end of the cycling part of a triathlon. So triathlon's running, swimming and cycling. At the end of the cycling part, they want a really fast end part. So what component of fitness is that, and how are you going to test it? Think carefully about what the triathlete will have to do, what part of the race that is, and then think of an assessment for it. And a marathon runner wants improved time. So a marathon runner wants to improve their time for the marathon. What component of fitness? How could you assess that? And how could you assess it, remember, means what test you're going to apply. Think about all those different ways to test that we went through in the presentation. What equipment will you need, and how will you record the results? Good luck with your presentation. As always, if you're confused by any of the tasks or the details, give me an email. That's the end of this presentation.